couple days ago, I was able to take my daughter Chloe to go see Wonka. So let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Share your thoughts on Wonka and give some point of reference. What's your experience with the Willy Wonka franchise? Have you read the book? Which of the movies have you seen? All of that fun stuff. As for me, I grew up watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's one of those movies I just remember watching very regularly and always kind of being creeped out by it. When the new one came out with Johnny Depp, and by new one, I mean the one that came out almost 20 years ago at this point in time, I did not think it was very good. And I've actually I hadn't shown my kids Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but I guess they watched it over at their grandparents' house, at my in-laws' house. And my daughter Chloe really enjoyed it and has apparently seen it a whole bunch of times, but she never watched it with me until last week, which is kind of fun to have one of those things where she discovered something she loved, apart from me, the person that's constantly trying to introduce her to movies. So I was very happy to be able to take her to see the new one, Wonka, a couple days ago. I'll let you know what she thought about it. Actually, she will let you know what she thought about it at the end of the review. But with all of that said, with all that context, let's get started. And I thought that this movie was very charming. It's just a lighthearted, delightful little story. It's intentionally silly. It's this very exaggerated world where people pay for things with chocolate, but it's all done in just such a playful manner, devoid of any cynicism, and so it just puts a big, gigantic grin on your face. And I'm not someone that's just naturally drawn to the world of Willy Wonka. And when they said they were doing a prequel, I was like, another pointless prequel that no one asked for, answering questions that no one is asking. What are we doing here? But it's just such a fun story that has this uplifting vibe to it. Everyone is endearing, and so it's just very infectious the way that it's designed. Now, at the center of the whole thing is Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka, and if you'd asked me prior to him being cast, who would you cast as a young Willy Wonka, he's probably like the last person I would have picked because he does so many very serious roles, and that's primarily the stuff I've seen him in. But he fully commits to the part and being energetic. And if you didn't know this, it's fully a musical, music numbers all throughout the movie with song, dance, the whole deal. And I believe it's him singing, and he's just committed to everything that he's doing. And while the movie aesthetically is designed intentionally to constantly reference the 1971 film, it doesn't really feel like Timothée is trying to copy Gene Wilder at all. They're very different interpretations. And so he's able to stand on his own without feeling like you're doing this comparison game the entire time. But he's just so charming and fun with everything that he's doing. And that's true of really the entire cast. Even the villainous characters are so cartoonish and over the top, they're fun to watch on screen. Another standout here for me, Hugh Grant as our Oompa Loompa. I am a very big Hugh Grant fan. Once again, if you'd asked me who should play an Oompa Loompa in a new Willy Wonka story, Hugh Grant is probably the last person that I would pick. But then as soon as you see him in the part, his sarcasm, his wit, all of it fits perfectly in the context of the movie.
Oh, I don't think I want to hear that.
Too late. And even because they're Oompa Loompas are shrunk and they're orange and green hair, you're even able to it's able to cross that uncanny valley that you can just accept that this is the thing in front of us that we're watching. And so I thought that worked. And he's not really a major character, but he's used just the right amount. And so he's in there amount that you want there to be just a little bit more. It leaves you wanting more, and that's the right way to feel about a character like this in a movie like this. Also, while it has kind of the humor, the whimsical nature, the songs, the dances, it also has just enough humanity to it. It has just enough of kind of these backstories for our characters without overdoing it. So like with the Tim Burton one with Johnny Depp, I felt like that one just way overdid it on like, let's try and explain why Willy Wonka's the way that he is. And so it just felt overcooked. And this feels like it's in there. We got some of his backstory that kind of set him on a path, but it doesn't feel like we're overdoing it to manipulate you. Just there's a set of circumstances that led people into this context where they're all together, and we kind of learn a little bit more about them. We're able to have satisfying payoff in the third act of the film for several of our different characters that just makes for a solid, uplifting holiday movie. If you're looking for a film that to kind of take the whole family to this Christmas season, this holiday season, Wonka is a very strong option. I had a really good time with it. But we got a couple more things to talk about here, so let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And really, here I'm just discussing certain other aspects of the movie that you need to know about. First off, I've had several people ask me, do you need to watch a previous version of Willy Wonka to understand this film? No, this is totally a standalone story. Now, there are a lot of references to the 1971 film that you won't necessarily understand if you haven't seen that movie, but it's just references. The plot itself works entirely on its own terms. I've also had some people asking me, what age ranges is this appropriate for? I mean, it probably is aiming kind of younger in what it's going for. And so I think that's kind of the target audience in here are families to kind of go see it together. I think you could take, like I would take my 5-year-old to go see this movie. I think my wife would really enjoy it because she likes musicals. And to spoil what my daughter's going to say about it, my 9-year-old really had a good time with it. So I think it does hit a lot of different age ranges, kind of as just family entertainment. And the last thing to kind of consider on here is that it's a Wonka prequel, but I'm not like an expert on Willy Wonka lore. I don't know how this really fits with the other Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory in light of where this movie ends and certain other things. It feels very much like its own Willy Wonka lore backstory thing that it's going for, while borrowing the aesthetic, superficially having a lot of similarities to the 1971 film, but doing its own story. And even kind of on that point, the 1971 film has a creepy vibe to it. Like, as soon as you get to the Chocolate Factory, obviously kids are getting sucked up into tubes. There's a sequence on the boat where he gives this creepy monologue while we're seeing chicken heads getting cut off. There's not really any of that in this movie. It's much more younger age appropriate than the 1971 classic film. There's a cynicism and a darkness to the the classic book that's not really in this. This is much lighter, more uplifting, more family friendly in a lot of ways. From there, let's move on to the bad. And the big thing that comes to mind here is at times the movie's just trying too hard, in particular, in reminding you of the 1971 film. When it's just generally having the aesthetic of the 71 film, I think it works. But there's times in this movie where it's copying lines. We're taking dialogue from Gene Wilder, putting it in Timothée's mouth.
Nope, scratch that, reverse it.
And when it does that, I don't think it really worked. It was distracting, kind of pulled me out of the film. It was like, too far, too overt. Keep it a little bit more subtle. Not that it needs even to be subtle, but not quite that overt in what you're doing. Likewise, some of the humor for me fell flat, where just kind of goes a little bit too hard on a few things and just didn't really work for me. And there's a lot in the plot of what it's trying to do with a bunch of characters, and there's this whole conspiracy kind of going on with the government and trying to open stores and things like that. So there's a lot of moving parts, and, you know, once again, some of them felt like, okay, where are we going with that? It just felt like there were too many moving parts, and maybe we could have simplified a little of this and it would have been more effective. But, generally speaking, this isn't really my type of movie, and I had a really good time with it. This very much is my daughter's type of movie. Here's what she said coming out of the theater.
Chloe, what did you think about it?
I really liked it because it used like a bunch of combinations of feelings, and then it kind of just put it all into one movie, and like it put it at the right moments, the right times. It just had like a good sense. It was very silly. It was fun. It was a musical, and I like musicals. So I think it was really good.
And the word that just keeps coming to mind is charming. So if you're in the mood for kind of just a good family movie this holiday season, keep Wonka in mind. Right, Chloe? Yeah.
In the end, this movie was a very pleasant surprise. It's charming, it's endearing, and it puts a smile on your face. If you're looking for a movie to go see this holiday season, I think this is one you can take the whole family to. Overall, it's a B+ on the entertainment scale, a 7.5 out of 10, and this movie is worth seeing on the big screen. Come back this weekend, I'll be ranking each of the Wonka films. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.